Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are waiting for a few more folks to join, and we will start shortly. All right, I see we have a nice group of people here. So, welcome to Don't Wait 24 Hours, or How Unit21 Accelerates Fraud Responses webinar. My name is Alex Pavasovich. I'm the head of fraud risk here at Unit21. I have been a fraud prevention practitioner for the past 15 years. I held several positions in fraud operations, analytics, consulting, building, and developing fraud prevention strategies. Today, we are going to talk a lot about speed, and this is why I'm excited to introduce to you my co-host and good friend, Connor. Now, Connor might appear to you as a regular human being, but in fact, he is our superhero head of solution engineering, and one of his many superpowers is deploying rules in super speed, which I hope we will see in the demo today. Connor, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Alex, for the very, very friendly intro. Hey, folks. Glad to have you all with us, and really excited to walk you through some strategies we have for deploying transaction models at speed to identify fraud trends as fast as possible. And we'll get right into it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Connor. Always great to have you here with me. Before we kick things off, a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, this session will be recorded and emailed for everyone on this call in the next 24 hours. There is also a Q&A section at the right side of the screen. So if you have any questions during this webinar or during the demo that Connor will show us, please feel free to tap in your questions, and we will do our best to answer all of those right at the end of the webinar. At the bottom of your screen, you will have an FAQ section. So if you have any technical issues for some reason, just please scroll down. You should have all the answers available for you right there. So let's jump into it. On the agenda for you today, we will cover the current state of transaction monitoring. We will go over the monitoring speeds and what are the differences between them. We will tap into how Unit21 do transaction monitoring and real-time monitoring, and we will have a live demo of some of the capabilities from Connor. After that, we will do the Q&A. So in general, transaction monitoring for fraud prevention and anti-money laundering, it's not new. Its roots to early, 20th century when the first regulatory framework began to emerge. Now, I would probably say that transaction monitoring as the concept that we are familiar with today began gaining traction somewhere around the 70s or the 80s, mostly with the enactment of the Banking Secrecy Act, or as we call it, the BSA. So somewhere around the 1970s, financial institutions started to be required to monitor suspicious activity. At the early days, it was mostly around large cash transaction, but slowly as the banking offering transitioned and we had new technologies and new payment rails and new transaction types, more and more transaction started to go into what we call transaction monitoring. So overall, the past few decades, we can say that the banks really put a lot of effort into making sure they understand how their customers transacting and being able to flag any suspicious or high risk activities or out of pattern activities for those customers. Today, transaction monitoring systems have become highly advanced. We are combining rule-based engines with AI and machine learning, and the rules themselves can be very, very sophisticated, and they're not what they used to be. But even though we have great advances in technology, and I can say firsthand because I was fraud operator, in 2006, and I can tell you that the tools that we use today are 10 times better than what we used to have in the past. But even though we have such great advances in technology, to be honest, things still don't look very good. I mean, if we look at the numbers, global money laundering is hitting over 3 trillion. And if we look at the reports of the fraud losses in the US, we exceeded over 10 billions last year. And remember, folks, this is only what was reported. So clearly there is a lot of room for improvement, both on the regulatory side, but also for what financial institutions can actually do. And we will tap into that in a moment. Now, at Unit21, we run an annual survey we call the State of Fraud and AML report, and we do it every year. And we basically ask leaders in our industry, what are their priorities, what are the pain points, how they're looking at the industry and emerging threats, and what is the focus for them in the next couple of years. And as you can see on the screen, if we look at the top priorities for risk and compliance folks, 71% of the people answered that they are focusing on automating manual processes. 64% responded that they want to improve efficiency and reducing cost. And 65% responded that they are trying to address new and emerging fraud schemes and making sure that they stay compliant and within the guidelines of the regulators. And if you have been consuming our content, or if you have been listening to my webinars before, you probably heard me saying that fraud prevention, if we simplify everything, is a function of visibility and control. So basically, how fast or how slow organizations see frauds when it happens, and then when they see the fraud, what they can actually do about it, what actions they can take. And I consider myself very lucky, because when I support my GTM team, I have the opportunity to do a lot of discovery calls with financial institutions of every shape, size, and color. Let's call it that way. And I can tell you that generally, most FIs fall into 3 different categories, which I will explain now. So many banks, many credit unions, they are still operating on what we call traditional monitoring. So they are relying on a delay response. Usually they're using legacy vendors, maybe signed a contract 15 or 20 years ago, still operating with the same vendor. The alerts that are being delivered to the operation teams are batched every 24 hours or the next business day, whatever the vendor might offer. So very after the fact monitoring, and by default, they are in a very reactive state. So if you take my fraud function, it's a very low visibility and very low control, because they see everything so late. So by the time the agent gets to review the alert, it's usually already too late, because probably the money is gone. Now, the second group is financial institutions that do enhanced transaction monitoring, where they rely on rapid response. Those will be your forward-thinking financial institutions who understand that they cannot deploy a fully real-time solution and to address every transaction or every potential high risk they have in real time due to several different reasons. They can be technical issues, it could be infrastructure issues, it could be issues on their backhand, or maybe they don't have enough manpower to address full fraud strategy in real time. But it doesn't matter what the problem are, they still want to make sure that they are on the rapid response. So basically how they are proactively fighting financial crime, no longer in a batch solution, but actually making sure that they generate alerts maybe every hour, every 30 minutes, every 10 minutes. And I can tell you that from working with my implementation team at Unit21, and we see it over and over again, if we doing a migration project and we take, let's say, a core strategy of fraud and ML, let's call it 40, 50 rules, and we migrate them from a legacy system into Unit21, so we're keeping the whole logic the same. And the only thing that we change is the cadence of how the rules are working. So instead of having the rules working every 24 hours or every business day, we set the cadence for every 30 minutes. The added value is tremendous, because by having the rule generating alerts in a timely manner to the analyst to review, first of all, the first thing that happened is you highly increase the visibility. So instead of seeing the fraud one day later, you see the fraud as it happens. And as a result, of high visibility, you actually get much better controls because the agent have more time to investigate, but also have the time to take controls and take action, put a hold on the account, maybe reverse the funds, or do any internal procedure that they already have in place, but with actually when the timely matter in order to prevent the loss. And finally, the last group is really the real-time monitoring. Let's call it what we call it the lightning response. Those financial institutions, they focus on taking an immediate prevention on high risk and for non-reversible transactions. So basically, understanding of all of my inbound and outbound channels, what is the highest risk for me in terms of fraud losses, in terms of liability, in terms of protecting my customers in cases of account takeovers, etc. And then making sure that whenever we have a high risk or high risk flag associated with the customer, with an activity, they can take action in real time. So not only we generate an alert in real time, but we also take an action in real time. And this is ideally where we want to be, at least for the high risk transactions and the high risk channels that we have in financial institutions. Now, I'm not saying that we want everybody to be here in lightning response and having fully scaled fraud prevention and anti-money laundering strategies deployed in real time. We understand it's a challenge. We understand it's hard. We understand that you need to take into consideration how is your core working with you, how fast or how slow you receive the data from your core, or how your online banking vendor is supporting you in getting non-transactional data that might be relevant for real-time monitoring. But what I'm trying to say is that ideally, the core strategy of the bank or the credit union no longer should be in a delay response. In 2024, there's absolutely no reason for you to wait a business day or 24 hours for alert to be generated just so you can investigate it after the fact and tell everybody, well, okay, the money is gone. We strongly advise that the core strategy should be in a rapid response. And some procedures are okay with being delayed. For example, if we're monitoring outbound wire transfers and we have maybe a window of 3 to 4 hours, it's okay to have a delayed response over there. But if we're investigating ACH transaction, if we're investigating check fraud, ideally we want to generate an alert as closely as possible to the high risk event in order to actually prevent the fraud losses. And then if we have the technical capabilities and we have the right risk appetite adopted to our strategy, we will take the channels and the transactions that are associated with the highest liability, associated with the highest fraud losses for us, and we will monitor those in lightning response, so in real time. So I'm talking the P2P transaction or the instant payments. If you are diving into RTP, FedNow, whatever that might be, you want to make sure that if you enable this convenience of real time to your customers, you're also protecting them in real time, but you're also protecting the bank in real time. So making sure that the high risk channels are protected as well. And how does Unit21 fit into all of that? So with Unit21, we have two core offerings. We have our asynchronous rule engine that was designed to monitor fraud, and we have our real-time rule engine, which is designed to prevent fraud. So for our transaction monitoring capabilities, our asynchronous engine, it's basically a rule engine that solves all of the pain points that you might be dealing with today in your financial crime unit. So if you have siloed data, if you have inefficient rules, if you heavily rely on engineering resources, if you have long and repetitive manual reviews, our rule engine solves all the problems. Basically, by ingesting all the data that you have today and making sure that the analysts have all the data available to them, we are creating an environment where the analyst is set to make the best possible decision in the shortest amount of time. The fact that you don't longer need to rely on engineering resources in order to create a new strategy, in order to test and deploy new rules, it's what will bring your reaction cycle into much, much faster response. So when you see the fraud happening, you can, write a strategy that mimics the fraud that you see, test it on historical data, to make sure that the numbers and the alerts are something that the operational side of the house can actually handle. And then if everything approved and according to your change management procedures, you can deploy the rule and put it into a live environment, production environment, and actually be able to start preventing fraud very, very fast. And we've seen rule deployments from going from validation to historical testing to production within minutes with live environments in banks and credit unions. So this is a great way for you to be proactive. And outside of that, if you feel like the rules are no longer operating at the scale that you expect, it's very easy to do optimization. It's very easy to increase the accuracy and precision of the rules and really making sure that you always operate in optimized environment. Now, if we talk about our real-time monitoring capabilities, this is really where Unit21 shines, because we are able to provide our customers a response up to 250 milliseconds, so very short latency, and we allow them to make decisions within seconds and to automate procedures that they already have manually built in the bank, but also take actions like white labeling good customers, because this is an element that's very important whenever you do real-time fraud monitoring, whenever you actually introduce true friction, because remember, real-time monitoring starts with an alert, but the customer journey has many, many steps built into it. So how do we get an alert that's generated under 250 milliseconds by 21 to actually being taken an action internally in the bank and making sure that the customer, whether it's a true positive and now this transaction was declined and maybe his card need to be blocked and maybe his account need to be frozen and all the actions that need to be taken care, or maybe if it's a false positive and now we need to make sure that this customer will be white labeled as fast as we can so they can go and do the transaction again and make sure that the transaction get approved. But I think you had enough of me talking, and I would like to give the mic to Connor, who will give us a quick demo on a few rules that can demonstrate all the different monitoring speed levels. Connor, would you like to take the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive.
Stop sharing. All right, you all said.
All right, well, let's dive right in. So, quick tour for those of you who may not have seen Unit21's detection modeling or transaction monitoring solution before. A couple of things to highlight. We do offer, obviously, our live models. These are the rules that are going to be flagging your customers, but we also do offer a couple of different testing modes that make it really, really easy for you to test different configurations of your rules and really get to a place where the rule set that you're running is as efficient as possible. And we have a couple of different ways to create rules that Alex has already talked about. So we've got our dynamic rules, the most flexible, our scenario rules, the most out of the box, and our real-time rules, the fastest. So I want to talk about a couple different things. The first being how we could use some of these really, really easy out of the box scenario rules to get not quite to instant, but much faster than what we see a lot of folks dealing with out in the market today. So there's a bunch of these. We've got rules for more general purpose use cases, as well as some for very particular use cases. And one that I wanted to highlight in light of a recent TikTok trend that some of you might have seen going around, a free, a hack for free money that turned out to be good old-fashioned check fraud. We have a rule designed to look for this exact type of behavior. So looking for folks who are withdrawing funds or transferring funds out of their accounts that match a recent check deposit made by that customer. So, if you think about this, we could say, hey, I want to know about somebody who is withdrawing a transaction within 10%, within 5%, of a recent check deposit made within the last day. But the other, critical thing, we could call this our TikTok check fraud rule. I think one of the critical things about this that Alex was alluding to is the execution interval. So while we're looking at behavior that has happened over the past day, we can run this rule on a much, much faster cadence, maybe on the order of minutes or an hour, so that instead of getting these alerts next day, and the person's long gone with the money and may have done some other things in the meantime, you might be able to get this alert within minutes, within an hour, and be able to do something much more quickly. You can also get webhooks from Unit21 when these alerts are generated. So if you do want to set up an automated system for, I don't know, putting a freeze on an account when they've been flagged for this, we can help you set that up. Now, this is really helpful for sort of your near real-time use cases, but we also do support that real-time, true real-time monitoring, sub-second monitoring that you can use to block a transaction before it happens. And that's going to use our real-time rules engine. It's going to look a little bit different. One of the big trade-offs between our near real-time and real-time rules is how much information we can look at. And so these are going to look specifically at an individual transaction and not at people's transaction history. But we might want to create a rule that, for example, blocks a unusually large P2P transaction if the device is a little suspect. And so we can do things like create a rule where we're trying to specifically flag P2P transactions, or you could get even more particular and say that, hey, we really care particularly about different payment processors. So if we wanted to be specific about, whether this was PayPal, Stripe, Zelle, maybe this could be, FedNow, if we wanted to add that in as an additional option, we could be really particular about the constraints we have for different payment networks and say, okay, if one of our customers tries to initiate a P2P transaction using Zelle or FedNow, that's more than 500% of their normal transaction amounts, and the device used is on an IP that is on a list of flagged IP addresses, then we want this to fail this rule, and we can use that to block the transaction. There's a bunch of different things that we can incorporate into this, and we can use all of the data that you collect about your transactions to make up these types of rules that can help you protect your institution as well as your customers. And then one last thing, this is all of the rules, and that's all fun and good, but we do also offer case management as well. So once these rules have flagged alerts, your analysts will be able to come in and use our case management system to investigate these incidents, including the ability to do things like come in and be able to look at check images, things like that. So we could, we could see, we can come in and review this like check deposit, for example. And when we review the transaction, we can come in and see that we've got these documents, be able to compare them against previous checks, be able to compare them against other like prior documents from the analyst, and be able to come in and either manipulate the image to look for signs of washing, maybe, or we could compare this against a prior endorsement. Look at this, zoom in on these images, crop both of them, overlay them, and really be able to see, are these actually similar to each other. We may want to rotate these first. But hopefully that gives you a really good sense of the solutions available, both for proactive monitoring, as well as the ability to come in and, once you've identified some potentially suspicious activity, be able to investigate and take action on those incidents.
Thank you so much, Connor. That was a great demo, and as you just saw, the rule engine is on one hand so simple, so it really takes minutes to deploy a rule. But on the other hand, it can be very sophisticated, and our dynamic model builder can really take your rules as far as your imagination goes, and you can be very, very sophisticated with the different conditions and different trigger options that you built into your strategy. And if what me and Connor showed you today is interesting and relevant for your organization, or you simply want to learn more about Unit21, I would like to invite you to participate in our Lunch and Learn program, where we invite you to book a personalized demo and get a $25 gift card for lunch. And then you should be able to click the link on the screen that you see right now, and enjoy the demo and enjoy a nice yummy lunch on Unit21. And I think with that, this is all what we have for you today. So thank you so much for spending your time with us, and thank you, Connor, for co-hosting with me today. We will hang around for a few more minutes. If you have questions, please continue to use the Q&A button. We will be here for a couple of minutes to answer your questions if you have any. Otherwise, we will see you next time. So cheers.